You're watching Car Nitty. My name is Mizan, and today I'm here to tell you that my M135i is officially sold. It's no longer with me, but this is the replacement. This is a Mark 5 Golf R32. It's a 2006 model, and a lot of people were guessing that I was going to move into an M car after the M135i, as it's a natural progression, but that's not the case. Unfortunately, I've not got M3 money yet, so this will have to do. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you'll know that I already had an R32 and I sold it after just 3 months. I've done a full video on that topic and I'll put in the top right hand corner so you can watch that. But for now, this video is about this car. So why don't we go for a drive and let's talk about why I bought this car, how much I bought it for, and what this car offers me. So why did I buy an R32? It's simple, isn't it? Why does anyone buy an R32? It's for the noise. You just can't beat the noise of a VR6. Now, after this car, we got the Mark 6R, which is a 2-litre turbo. So this is the last one before it went turbocharged and displacement was cut to just 4 cylinders. So if you're a man like me who loves his sound, you're gonna always want an R32. It's always gonna be a top level car in your book. Now, one thing I have to say is, by modern standards, this car is not fast, okay? Some people think about the R32 back in the days and that it was a fast car. It was back in the days, absolutely. 250 brake horsepower when the Mark 5 GT was 200 horsepower, etc, etc. But this is the thing, we now live in a world where all cars are pushing 200 brake horsepower and they're standard normal cars. So 250 brake horsepower plus the fact that this car weighs around 1600 kilos means it's not nippy or nimble. You literally don't have either. The only reason why someone buys an R32 is for the noise, no other reason. So if you see one, just know that that's why he's driving it. So how much did I pay for this car? Well, this car, just before I bought it, had a major service done, and it had a 4-wheel drive service, so the Howdex service, as well as a DSG service. Now, along with that, this car's mileage is only 91,000 miles. So would you believe me when I tell you that I picked this car up for just over £8,500? Some of you are probably thinking, I don't know if that's a good price or a bad price. The honest truth is, that is a very good price. A Mark 4 Golf R32 costs how much? A shoddy one will cost you more than 10 grand, okay? And this is a very clean example of one, and I bought it for under 10k. I'm well happy with that. It's under 100,000 miles, which is exactly what I wanted. And no doubt that this car will go up in value just like the Mark 4. It's only natural. The Mark 4 took its time, but it's on the rise, and the Mark 5 is gonna follow. There's less and less of these on the roads every year, so believe me when I tell you, these cars will shoot up soon. As I said, this is my second R32, and you might be wondering why I went back for it. I mean, who does that? Who buys a car and then goes back for it? Who goes back for second rounds? But the honest truth is, it's because the other one, I only owned it for 3 months, so I never got a real feeling of what the car is like. So naturally, I was looking to sell the 135, and I was like, what car do I buy? And this, as I've always said, has been a bucket list car. And because it's not one that I really got to tick off, I mean, yeah, in history, I owned one. Hurrah, I've got pictures to prove. Great, I've even got video to prove, hey. But that's it. I don't really know what an R32 is like because I didn't live with it long enough. So it's worth noting that this car's road tax is £600 a year. So the other R32 I had, that was only £340. Now, you might be thinking, how am I paying £600 a year road tax for a car that I had previously and it was just £340? But the thing is, majority of R32s are going to be in this tax bracket. There's nothing that you can do. They are in the higher road tax band because the car has to be older than a 2006 for it to be a low road tax model. But the R32s came out in late 2005, so only a handful of those are low road tax. So it's one of those things. And because of that, if you choose to hold out for a low road tax R32, you're limiting yourself, because the R32 that you're going to buy may not have the options you want or the service history, so you're more likely to end up with a shed, let's be honest here, because you're only focusing on one thing, which is the road tax. And what's the chances you're going to get everything you want in a low road tax? There isn't. And realistically, let's be honest here, people that can buy a low road tax model R32, they're people that aren't paying as much as someone who's running a high road tax model. So you have to ask yourself, maybe those guys are going to scrimp on maintenance, because let's be honest here, they've gone for the budget R32. If there was a budget R32, the low road tax one is the one, right? So maybe that's what they've done. So do you really want to get into the budget R32? I've owned both now. I've owned the low road tax and the high road tax, and I can tell you this right now, I'd rather go with one that I know that's been well looked after. It's not worth limiting yourself to a specific model just because you don't want to pay that much. I thought about it, and that's exactly what I tried doing, and it didn't work out. So now I'm in a position where it's like, you know what, I want that car, I want a good one, and I'm going to pay what I need to make sure that happens. And that's basically what I'm doing. The timing chain on this car hasn't been replaced either, but at 91,000 miles, this car doesn't require one at this mileage. And also, I've checked out the timing chain, it doesn't make any of the noises, and it's running sweet. The story of how I ended up with this car is pretty funny. So I spent some of my time on Auto Trader looking at R32s, as anyone does when you want a car, and you're always just browsing. Let's be honest, you're not looking to buy it. There's going to be one car that comes on that's going to catch your fancy, and then you're just going to go for it. Now that hadn't happened to me at that point. I was just browsing and looking. So when I was looking on Auto Trader, let's be honest, yeah, they're all over the country, aren't they, these R32s? So I would have to travel really far to get one, and on top of that, some of them are Japanese imports. Now the benefit of getting a Japanese import means it's not going to rust, it's not going to have as much rust as a UK car. Reason being, it doesn't rain as much in Japan. Now problem is, the history of the car before it was in the UK is always going to be grey. It's not going to be legitimate, as I say. Reason why I say that is, here in the country, in the UK, we have our own standards, and you can't fake that. You can't fake MOT history and the mileage that comes up on the MOT, and various other things. If the car's been written off in an accident, and HPI check will tell you that. So buying a car that's a Japanese import is a grey area, because you will never know the true history of a car. Personally, I can't do that, but I understand that there are benefits of doing so, and some people will rather take those benefits on than have a benefit of a UK bred car. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to travel far for an R32. It is what it is. I mean, even the chap that bought my other R32 came from Hull. So I'm in London, but if I had to travel out for an R32, I'd have to do it. Can you believe I managed to find this on my doorstep? And when I say doorstep, I am being literal. This was on my doorstep. So this car was parked on my road, and I saw it and I admired it. I was like, I really like that car, but can't do nothing about it, can I? It's just a parked car. But one day, as I drove past it, I see the car switched on, and I see that someone sat in. I literally chucked my car into reverse, pulled up alongside him, and I'm ready to say, do you want to sell your car? And it turned out that the owner is someone that I know, someone that I've known a very long time ago. And we had a chat, and I twisted his arm. What else can I say? I twisted his arm and I said, listen, you need to sell me that car, I want it. And eventually he sold it, and that's why I've got it. And also this car is an early R32, so it doesn't come with these wheels from factory. These are the later R32 wheels. And the reason why it's got these wheels is because the previous owner, or one of them anyway, decided to put these wheels on. And I'm very thankful to God that he decided to get those wheels off and put these original ones back on. I'm only the 7th owner of this 16-year-old R32, and that might sound like a lot to you, but remember, it's 16 years old and it's an R32. It costs a lot of money to run and maintain. Now, as I mentioned, the 6th owner, I know him. He only had the car for a few months, and the reason for that is I twisted his arm. I literally forced him to sell it to me. There's no other way to say it. I forced him to sell it to me because I really, really wanted this car. And the person that he bought it off, he only had it for a few months, and the reason being is that he couldn't afford the maintenance on this car. So when my old chum went to view the car, he negotiated on the price. The guy wasn't having it. He left the house, and as he sat on his road waiting to go home, he's on his phone with the car running. He can hear domestic situations from the car. You can hear them arguing, and his wife screaming at him, "You can't afford this car, you need to get rid of it." So he could hear all of that, so he thought, let me hang back, I have a feeling he might call me. So he sat in the car and waited, and eventually the guy did call him and said, "Hey mate, you still want the car?" And he goes, "Yeah, but not for the price you want." And he managed to knock off about £1,000 off the asking price from the previous owner. So just to recap, I'm the 7th owner. The 6th owner is someone I know who only owned it for a short period, but it was because I forced him to sell, otherwise he wouldn't have sold. And the guy before that couldn't afford the R32. He couldn't afford to run this car. Now, prior to that guy, this car has been under ownership for 5-year periods or so. So literally the previous owners had it for 4 years or 5 years at a time. I've done a HPI check and that's confirmed that. So that goes to show me that this car has been well looked after, because not many people keep an R32 in their life for that long. I mean, they're not cheap cars to run. So for someone to keep that car for 4 or 5 years at a time, it just goes to show that this car was well cared for. So the first 5 owners really did look after it. Sorry, 4 owners. And the 5th guy couldn't afford it. 6th guy, he's the one that done all the servicing, the Haldex, the DSG. So he definitely spent the money. And I'm the lucky chap that's gonna get to enjoy this car with minimal maintenance. And hopefully this car doesn't make me declare bankruptcy. That's the main thing, all right? This car is fairly well spec'd. I mean, this is obviously a DSG model. Now, I didn't mind if I got a DSG or a manual, purely because that I feel like you can have a lot of fun in a manual R32, you know, shifting through the gears. But the DSG does sound really good because when you change through gears, it slurs. So I was 50-50 about it. With resale, the DSG is a better car. Now, along with that, I've got this amazing paint color, haven't I? Deep pearl blue. I mean, I'm in a position where I can say I've now owned 2 R32s and both of them have been the best colors. One was shadow blue, the other's deep pearl blue. I mean, that's bucket list, isn't it? Getting to own the 2 best colors there is. On top of that, we've obviously got folding mirrors here. I've got heated seats and leather seats and auto headlights. But the main party trick with this car is it's got a Scorpion exhaust. Now the tips on this car look amazing, but I'm unsure about the sound. And I may get the original exhaust back on the car and fabricate it to make it sound like my previous R32. I'm not a fan of the Scorpion, if I'm honest. It's just not really me. Now, in the short period that I have on the car, I've already modified it. I've put my chameleon windscreen on from Elite Car Tinting. They're the only guys that will do my chameleon because I don't get this yellow residue or hue in the car. I've put chrome mirrors on to match the grille and wheels. Well, and to be fair, I think that this should have been a factory thing. They should have done this because it's something that modern VAG cars have now with their performance cars. So I feel the R32 just really suits that. I've got dynamic indicators on as well with light up dance. So I've done things that make the car look really OEM plus. Nothing over the top, just enough to make the car look good. And I'm quite happy with the way it looks, if I'm honest. It's come together really, really well. I'm sure you can tell I'm going for an OEM plus build, and that's basically what I'm doing. I'm not going too crazy with it. I want it to look classy, elegant, because reason being is the R32 market, when it comes to selling this, they're going to want a classy, elegant R32. I sold my other R32 to a very young chap. I don't think an older gentleman would have bought my other one, and that's sort of the audience I'm going for with this, because this one's worth a lot more money than my other one, and I don't think a young guy can have the money to spend on one of these by the time this is ready for sale. So I need to make sure I appeal to my audience. In terms of rust, there's only one place this car has rust, which is near the driver's door. Usually these have rust on the wings and the rear boot lid and a few other places. Very fortunate that this car doesn't. I'm sure this car's been dry stored or something. It's honestly in such good nick. I'm so happy with the condition of this car. I couldn't have asked for a better buying experience. I mean, I bought the car from someone on my doorstep. It's in very good condition. It's had all the maintenance work done and the color's amazing. The only downside is that road tax, but as I said, when everything else falls into line, I don't think the road tax should be a factor. So I'm happy to pay the high road tax cost for this car. It's one of those things, it just is what it is. And obviously, no doubt you guys can hang tight, and you know I'm going to do a series on the R32 like I did with the 135, you know, compare it against other cars that are similar money, or, you know, cars that are in a similar class. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. So what do you guys think then? Did I pay too much for this car? Or was it a bargain? Was it an upgrade from the 135, or is it a downgrade? Whatever your thoughts are, put them down below. I'd be really keen to know what you guys think of this new purchase. Because the thing is, when I buy a car nowadays, I'm buying it for myself, but I'm also buying it for the channel. And I think that this was a good choice, especially because the review I did of my previous R32 done really well. So clearly, there is an audience for this car. People do really like it. It's a car that people aren't willing to take a punt on and buy, you know, put their money where their mouth is. I'm willing to do that. So why not create some content and share the experience with you guys, you know? And as always, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you have anything at all, please put them down below. I'll see you soon for the next one, alright? Take care.